Hi, guys.
Hello.
I don't know if any one of us is running this. I think I'm supposed to be, but it's been a weird week for me, so I'm just kind of like, ugh. So, hi, I'm Georgia Beers. These are my cohorts, Fiona Riley and Maggie Cummings.
Hello.
Hello.
If you guys didn't know, we wrote a novella together for Christmas last month. You can get it now, All I Want for Christmas. We each have a story in it. I had a lot of fun writing mine. I don't know if you guys did or not. I've read them all. They're wonderful. The thing that I like the most is that they're all very different. They gel well together, but they were each very different stories. And I thought that was really cool because we didn't talk to each other.
That's true.
So I didn't know what either of you two were writing. You didn't know what I was writing.
Correct.
I don't know. So how were your holidays, you guys?
Yeah, they were good, kind of quiet. I mean,
Weird, right?
Yeah, weird, but I mean, I don't know. I'm just sort of happy that they're done a little bit. We can kind of move forward. And I don't want to sound ungrateful. I love Christmas, especially since I have a Christmas novella out with you guys. I really love Christmas this year. But I'm kind of happy to be kind of moving forward, even though 2021 doesn't really feel totally different from 2020.
Oh, right. A little crazy.
It's been a rough start. Yeah, it's been a rough start. I have two little kids, so for me, Christmas is really fun because everything's really exciting. Like everyone's really excited. Like I still have a Christmas present the kids haven't opened because they're little, like 3 and 1.5. So they get really distracted. And then all of a sudden I'm like, there's still a Christmas present under the tree. I'm trying to take the tree down. Like, could you open it? But then they see like a doll and then they're gone. So for me, Christmas has been dragging along and I'm hoping it'll end at some point, but maybe.
I want to point out before we get too lost in it that there is a chat bar and there is also a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So if you have anything you want any of the three of us to answer or address, put it in the Q&A box. Also feel free to chat with each other. We can all see the chat box and we're looking, but if you put a question there, sometimes they roll by before any of us catch it. So feel free to pop in and ask us questions. My Christmas was very weird. I have 4 sisters, so it's a very big family. And my mom, both of my mom and my stepdad had COVID earlier in the year, and luckily they had very mild cases. But I think it was good because it woke them up a little bit because I honestly don't think they were terribly careful. But my mom set up a different day for each of the sisters for Christmas. So it was kind of cool that I went and it was just me and my mom and my stepdad and my one sister. There's 2 of us that don't have partners right now. So it was 4 of us. But it was also weird that I didn't get to see the rest of my sisters or my nieces and nephews. Very strange, very strange. We did everything, texting and Venmoing money to each other. But it was, my nieces and nephews are all, high teens or 20s, and that's all they want is money. So I give them cards and say, text me when you open this. And then they open it and I'm like, Venmo.
Nice.
That's smart.
Well, she does.
That is smart, actually.
That's really smart.
Well, the reason I do that is because I had one instance several years ago where I had 2 birthday cards in my purse and I went to dinner and I lost them both and they had cash in them. And at that time I was with Bonnie and she was like, no more cash. You write them checks or you do something else. So Venmo is wonderful.
Yeah.
How do you lose 2 birthday cards?
I have no idea. I don't know how it happened. I swear to God.
A million years ago when I graduated from college was right around the same time that they switched what money looks like. I don't know if Georgie remember that when they switched the bills. So I have this uncle who's sort of like kind of a prankster, and he gave me money for my college graduation. It was probably like $200 or something. And I opened it up and threw it in the garbage. And then told my mother, I was like, oh, Uncle Mark is so crazy. He gave me fake money. She's like, what are you talking about? He gave you fake money.
Oh, no.
Bills, they had color in them. And she was like, you idiot, that's what new money looks like or whatever. I mean, I went through the garbage and got them. Let's not get crazy. But so that's sometimes how you also throw away money. You just throw it.
Okay, I will. That's a good story.
I have never thrown away money. I just want to clarify. I've never thrown away money. I've given money away. I've put money in places they probably shouldn't be, but I've never lost money.
Did Uncle Mark ever find out?
Oh, yeah. I told him right away. He was like, you're an idiot. How did you graduate college? And I was like, good question.
Can you guys hear my cat?
I heard your cat.
I am it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. He's mad because I'm not playing.
Aw.
Pretty sure he's going to start rolling the jingle balls around down there, and it's going to be bad.
See, he's getting in the Christmas spirit. He's already there. He's in the Christmas spirit with his jingle balls.
I'm telling you, there's times of the day when he's just like a crazy man. Mostly it's just sleeping or wandering around, and he's not, at night he sleeps. He's climbing on my plant. But please, hey.
He's
I'm
on
sorry.
Somebody said, that's funny.
He's going to knock out the door. If you hear a crash, it's just my plant stand. No worries. It's fine. So what else is going on, guys?
I don't know about you guys.
Who's got new stuff? Who's working on what? What are you working on?
Can we go? I'll
Yeah,
go.
sorry, I wasn't sure if you froze or if you were waiting for me to go. You can go because my answer is really short. I'm not really working on anything. Over to you, Fiona.
So we just finished. We just had the novella come out, which is what we're going to talk about today. But I'm in the middle, actually the very end of a series. So I had a series start in September, which is the high stakes romance series, which is Bet Against Me, which came out. Don't mind my light. And then the sequel will be out in the spring, and I'm in the process of finishing the third book of the series. So I'm behind on my deadline, but I will catch up, and I will have that will be out in the fall. So this is the first return to series for me. The first published book I ever had started out to be a series. It wasn't supposed to be. It was one shot, and it became a 3-shot. So
it's always good when one shots become 3 shots,
3 shots, a 4-shot tequila floor, whatever. So so now I'm on a new series. So that's what I'm working on now, doing the best I can. It's tricky during the pandemic. I'm sure you can all weigh in on that. Writing romance in a tumultuous time is hard.
Yeah,
Sure is.
It's hard to, stitch those happy endings together when the world is under attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we try and we work real hard, and there's a lot of alcohol usually. So
Yeah, I read somewhere that alcohol sales were like for the past 6 months. And I'm like, well, I'm contributing to that a lot, and there's just me.
Nice.
I like that Instacart will deliver alcohol, so I don't have to go to the liquor store. So some guy shows up at your door and he's like, "Here's your giant box of alcohol, ma'am."
It's been a tough week since your last order. Good job. Stay hydrated.
It's not even funny.
Cheers. Thank you.
Maggie, did you say what your next thing is, or did you say you wanted to go last?
I don't really have, I'm working on stuff, but I don't have anything scheduled. I have really struggled a lot during this past time to be creative.
Well, you're up top too. That's got to make it doubly hard for you.
Yeah, listen, I think it's hard for everybody. I don't think that, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't think that I have it really any harder than anyone else. It's just, I've been having a hard time. I think what I've noticed about myself is sort of that adage, the more you have to do, the more you do. I feel I feel that playing out in my life. And since I don't have, not that I don't have much to do, but I feel like my days used to be okay, race, get up, go to work, get home, take this kid here, take this kid there, make dinner, walk the dog, do some laundry, then write or whatever. And so I would get it done more. And now I'm just nope, nobody goes to school. My kids are in kind of a blended learning situation, but they very rarely actually go to school.
You have 3 kids, right?
I have 2 kids.
Oh, you have
two kids and a dog who's basically a kid in a lot of ways. But so it's just I come home and I can kind of make dinner, I can plan ahead. And then I'm just well, what television shows am I going to watch now? Because what if the world does end and I don't get to watch everything before that happens? That would be a tragedy. And I'm telling you, I am really, really making some headway on that goal. So, I guess I'm proud of myself for that. But I am just kind of, to answer your real question, I am kind of working on 2 different things right now. But I haven't proposed anything. It's just I'm kind of working on it without being in contract, which feels weird. And it's kind of like a cop out for me. Because I'm well, I don't have a deadline, so I can just work on it when I feel like it. That's not a good plan.
Untethered and free.
Right. Exactly. So.
Yeah. I think a deadline helps. For sure. having someone kneeling on your neck to get things done helps, you know, and where my kids are home now too all the time, you know, you wake up and you're a mom and you go to work and then you're a mom and you come home and you're a mom and there's no in between mom time, except for when they go to sleep. And then the last thing you want to do is work because you've been working for 11 months nonstop. So it's definitely different. And now that I can do some remote work too, you know, I have to really carve out time to write. Whereas before I knew I was writing before work, after the kids go to sleep at their nap time. Now I remote work sometimes when they're napping because the house is quieter. So then there goes my midday write. And then it's a little bit like, well, what do you do now? You know, where are you going to find 10,000 words you're missing?
Right.
You will, you'll find them. You always do.
It. I really don't with the kids home all the time. I mean, and not that you don't love your kids, not that you don't love spending time with them, but it's a lot of energy. It's got to take a lot of your energy. It's funny because I have said to people that I feel a little guilty because my life has not changed all that much. I work from home. I live by myself before the pandemic, and I work from home and I live by myself during the pandemic. But it's interesting. I had a conversation with my dad a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know, when this first, I'm an introvert. So when this first started, I was like, this is great. I don't have to see anybody. I don't have to go anywhere. This is awesome. And like 3 or 4 months later, I'm like, okay, this is a lot of alone time. I'm kind of lonely. Can somebody come over? Can somebody, you know, I mean, I haven't had a hug in 9 months, 10 months. So it's weird. And most people know I just lost my dog this week, and that was rough. And if I didn't have this stupid cat, I'd be completely alone, and it would just be.
Okay, but there he is. So, you know, look how attentive he is to your needs.
Yeah. So while I think your kids must sap all your energy, at the same time, I'm like, I wish I had some kids here. And I would wish that for, you know, half an hour, and then I'd be like,
you can come take mine for 2 or 3 hours so I can maybe get my 10,000 words in. And then you can tell me if you thought that was a good idea.
Well, see, that's the best part of being the cool aunt, is that you get to watch the kids and you get to fill them full of sugar and junk food, and then you give them back.
Sure.
That's what's so awesome about being the aunt.
That's why we hate you.
I know.
Thank you for juicing them up.
And watch TV. Like Maggie, I am right there with you, because I'm like, Netflix, you need to come out with more stuff.
And like, I'm sad because you know that they're not making more of the seasons that you're finishing.
Right. And my sister Megan and I are big scary movie fans. And so we both have Netflix and we both have Amazon Prime. And so we're always looking for like stupid stuff to watch. Right. And she'll text me and she'll be like, have you watched anything new lately? Because I've been looking for half an hour. I can't find anything. And that's what happens. You're like searching. No, I saw that. Not interested. Saw that. Not interested. It's awful. And I only have 1 season left of the Great British Baking Show, Maggie. And I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm done.
Well, I finished it, and it's a sad time.
Oh,
it's a very sad time.
I was watching like 2-3 episodes a night, and now I'm like 2-3 episodes a week because I'm on the end of season 7. Yeah. I don't want it to end.
I rewatched the first 2 seasons, I think.
Okay.
Because my wife hadn't seen it. So
and you were like, hey, let's watch it.
Actually, the weird thing is I forgot who won. Like the whole time I was like gearing up. I'm like, I know what happens. And at the end I was surprised. And I was like, what has happened to me that I watched this, I don't know, 3 months ago. And I don't remember who the winner is.
You binged out your brain.
I think I did. I was totally fried.
I do not have kids old enough to watch a lot of television. Tonight is Friday, so I'll be watching RuPaul's Drag Race. We do that every Friday. But yeah, I'm not, you know, Schitt's Creek has been my savior because it's a quick 25-minute episode, and that's pretty much what I can sneak in between them waking, sleeping, and me having to write. But yeah, I'm really jealous of people who took up like hobbies and habits and like watch a show or took up knitting or do puzzles. Like I've never been bored. I'd like to be bored. Tell me what bored is like.
Yeah.
I can tell you what bored is like.
Please tell me what bored is like.
Bored is like eating everything in the house. That's what I do when I'm bored. Which means that's part of this pandemic is I'm getting the pandemic 15 plus menopause.
Sure.
So don't even talk to me about weight because I don't want to. It's so bad. I can't sleep. I have hot flashes. I'm all by myself. There's nobody for me to complain to. That's why I'm complaining to you guys.
In the world.
We're here for you. I'm right there with you too. I've gained the COVID-15 or whatever it's called, and there's no end in sight, you know, and it's kind of like, okay.
Fiona, you just got a Peloton, right? I have a Peloton.
did.
I ride the damn thing 4 times a week, and it's not making any difference. Although I do think maybe it's keeping me even. Like if I didn't have it, I would be like, it would be the COVID 25 or something.
I joined the Peloton world. It's something that we talked about a long time, going back and forth. I work in medicine, so I do a lot of physical health in my full-time work job. So when I'm outside of work, I don't do a lot of physical work except for cardio. I don't lift, I don't do anything because my job is physical. So when the pandemic hit, you know, I have a gym in my house. I'm very fortunate to have equipment in my home. I used to train here, and you know, we just weren't getting in the basement. I just wasn't getting downstairs. And then, you know, we had a trainer, and you're trying to do the best you can to stay active. And this is something that, you know, we talk about, like staying mentally and physically fit helps to keep you creatively fit. Like all those things kind of feed off of each other. So when we had the opportunity to, you know, kind of go, maybe do we read a Peloton? Do we not? We ended up pulling the trigger and got one. And it's in my living room. Like I have a full gym, but my Peloton's in my living room because I will get on it when my kids are watching Puppy Dog Pals, because it's a 24-minute episode. I can take a 20-minute ride and I can still watch them. And for me, it's been great. I mean, I've had it like 3 weeks. I think I've already clocked 10 rides. So, or 12 rides or something with the holiday, which is pretty good. Yeah. So trying, you know, but I have to be in the room with them, which is like kind of feeds back to the pandemic. Like when we don't have, where kids aren't going to school, we're in each other's space a lot and we have to change things. And, you know, you just do the best you can. And that's the best I can do right now. So they're watching Puppy Dog Pals and I'm mostly paying attention to the person on the bike yelling at me on the screen.
So let's steer things back to the novella a little bit, because I want to know how you guys came up with your ideas. I know how I came up with mine, but I don't know where yours came from. So Maggie, tell me about yours first.
So when I was trying to think about what I wanted to write about, what I love about Christmas, sort of the first thing that came to me was New York City. I mean, I live right outside of New York. I hate the cold weather. I mean, I really hate it. Like I think anything below 75 degrees is cold, kind of. So like I live in the wrong part of the country for sure. But when it's Christmas, like I'll do things outside and I'll do them willingly. Like I always go to the New York City for multiple times during the Christmas season. I go to see the tree. We go to see the light show at Saks. I'll go to the Christmas markets. I'll do the lights at Diker Heights. Like all of that stuff is just kind of like, I enjoy it. I don't mind being cold. I actually like kind of enjoy being cold then, because then I get home and it's like, oh, I was so cold and now I'm so warm. But so I got to thinking about Christmas markets, and that's one of the things I love. That New York City has a ton of different Christmas markets, all different kinds, like different places. There's small ones, there's really large ones. And I was like, oh, what if I did a story there about like somebody who's not really from New York, but is like a little shop owner and is kind of going to be there for the season, and what would their experience be like?
Was it hard for you to write that, since you know exactly what it feels like to be in one of those markets? Was it hard for you to look through somebody's eyes who's never been there before?
I mean, yes and no. I think I really feel like I thought a lot about like my first time sort of being in the city, like when I lived in the city when I was younger, like because it is really overwhelming. The city is just so huge. There's so many people, and what some of those things are. And I try to incorporate some of that. I mean, I hope I did it justice. I hope I gave like a good reflection of what New York can be and sort of that magic at that time of year. So, you know, I was so nervous. I remember thinking like, oh, what if I'm not the only person who has this idea? Like, what if one of you guys do it? And I don't want to go up against either one of you in the same thing. Thanks anyway. I'll just change, you know? And so once we got like the one-liner about like, you know, George is writing about this, Fiona's writing about this, I was like, I can like take a deep breath and kind of run with this or whatever. Just because to me, that is what Christmas is, that experience in the city.
New York is amazing at Christmas. I've only been there once, but it was everything that you see on TV, everything that you hear about. It was amazing. Yeah.
And it was fun. It was fun to write. You know, I mean, I wrote it like just after last Christmas in a lot of ways. It was, I think, March or April when I was writing it. And so it was kind of like, it didn't feel like, you know, we didn't know what the world would be this year. Like that was kind of my Christmas of 2020 in a lot of ways, you know, because I didn't get to do any of those things this year. I mean, I got COVID in the middle of November. So like I wasn't even out of the house like through the end of like December. So like I didn't see any of that stuff. Like, because even those things you could still kind of do in limited ways, I couldn't do them. So that sort of like, I didn't know at the time, but was sort of my kind of like 2020 Christmas experience. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, it has like sort of a special place for me for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And your story puts us right in that little festival. I mean, I could see it. I felt like I was walking around in there. It was really well done.
Thank you. You're nice to say that.
Fiona?
So mine takes place in a bar in Boston, and during the couple weeks before Christmas, and then during a storm on Christmas Eve. And the bar is actually first mentioned in my last book, Bet Against Me. It's the background for a fundraiser for one of the characters' colleagues. So it's first introduced there, and then sort of brought into its own place. You meet the owner of the bar, Mira, in that story. So for me, as I just finished the first book, it was an easy segue to pull back to that bar, because I think pre-COVID and pre-pandemic, going to like a really nice bar around Boston with the lights in the ceiling and like this fake snow on the window and like a cold night, like I think is most of my 20s, for sure, my college time. And I just, that's where everyone's kind of like drunkenly singing and there's Santa hats being passed around. Like that's something for me that really is nostalgic to like, going to the bar with pre-children. And I love that idea. So the idea of the bar and the character of Mira was first introduced in the first book, and the bar is a scene for all 3 books in that series. So you'll see it a lot. You'll see Mira again. You'll see Courtney again. So for me, it was a matter of like pulling a little from this book and then kind of doing their own thing. I've never done a full novella before. And for me, like, just like Maggie said, this was my Christmas. I wrote this in the spring and didn't know we weren't going to have one. And I, my wife is from New York. We go to Manhattan every Christmas and we do the tree and we do the Saks windows and, and that didn't happen. So to be able to have a little bit of extra Christmas time in the spring when we wrote this novel was nice, and to be able to go back to it and kind of review and just think like Christmas music and festive cocktails and all these fun little things that didn't happen, being around people, socializing, kissing under the mistletoe, like all those things aren't happening this year unless you're doing it at home. For me, that's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of parts of Christmas that are really fun. I think like the mistletoe thing is a fun thing to do. Like presents are fun to do, especially like in the beginning of a relationship, or, you're kind of awkward about what you're going to do, what you're going to give someone, you don't know somebody very well, how big do you go? How small do you go? Do you give gifts if you've been dating like a week? Things like that.
Yeah. And like I said with Maggie, I was in that bar. Like you did a great job with that, because I could visualize, I could see the bar, I could see the seats, I could see the coat area. I was sitting right there. Like I felt like I was eavesdropping on the 2 of them.
Same.
It's a little creepy, but thank you.
What was interesting for me, for yours, Fiona, was that, I was writing mine in like March or April like you were, but I read yours much later because I read it in proofs. So it really was kind of like Christmas time. So I did kind of get to experience that, same with yours, George. I got to experience like a kind of a Christmassy feeling thing around Christmas, closer to Christmas time. It wasn't exactly right around, but it was much closer. And like by then we knew, Christmas wasn't really going to happen because it was whatever, October or whatever. So I was like, this is it. Be a sponge,
Well, and it was funny because I wrote, you guys both wrote big city and I wrote small town. And I have always wanted to write a fake romance, and I've never done it. And it was Sandy who suggested that I use a secondary character from 16 Steps to Forever, which also came out in December. So I was writing them at the same time. I wrote the novella and the novel at the same time, which was weird. But as I was writing the novel, the character of Sasha just became somebody that I really, really liked. And I'm like, I'm going to use her. She's going to be the one who gets the novella. And so I was able to put a couple of sprinklings into the novel to let you know who she is, what she's about, and that she has a fake girlfriend. And then I moved to the novella, which expounds on the fact that she's been lying to her mother about having a girlfriend. And she gets in a debate with her older sister, who does not believe that the girlfriend is real and dares her to bring the girlfriend home. And so of course, Sasha accepts this dare and now has to find somebody to pretend to be her girlfriend. And of course, as always happens in a fake romance, they end up actually really falling in love. But I was super happy to use the title Triple Dog Dare because A Christmas Story is one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. I watch it every year, every single year, because it's on TBS like 24 hours. So I watch bits and pieces of it throughout the day, and I go to my mom's, and then when I get home and I'm by myself, I get in bed and I watch it from start to finish. So writing that, and I wrote it in first person, which I also don't do a lot. But that I think enabled more of the humor, I think. It was a lot of fun to write. I think that when I first got the assignment, I was a little worried about it because I had to do the two of them at the same time, like the novel and the novella were due at the same time. And I've never done that before. And it was daunting. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. So I would write the novel. And then when I worked on the novella, that was almost a break for me. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And
what a payoff for readers though, too, to be able to kind of like see how it plays out in real time almost in both of those stories, you know? That's like, I think kind of a gift to your readers in a lot of ways, you know, that they probably don't get a whole lot.
I tried to focus on the sibling relationship a lot because like I said earlier, I have 4 sisters. I have a sister, 2 stepsisters, and a half sister. And we all have different dynamics and we all have different views, and we do this sometimes. We love each other, but you know, when you're growing up, I've never been the middle child, and Sasha is the middle child, but my mother was a middle child. And she talks about middle child syndrome all the time. So I got that from her. I'm the oldest. So I'm always like, you know, better than everybody else. Better than somebody else.
Do you find it more difficult to write a novella versus a novel? I know you were doing 2 at the same time, but you know, this was my first real published novella. So, you know, it was definitely different for me, but how do you guys feel?
I found it to be different, but like I said, I went in and it was daunting, but then it ended up not being daunting at all. Once I got into it, I just had a good time, and I kind of liked the fact that it didn't have to be 80,000 words. And I think I think mine is about 25,000 words, and I actually sent a note to our editor and I was like, is this long enough? Because I don't know. I've written like 1 in my life, and I think both of yours were longer than mine. So, but she was like, that's fine. It's fine. So, no, that's good. That's good. I think mine is a fairly short novella.
This was the first novella I've written too, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I really always feel like I never know what I'm doing, but I was really unsure of the pacing. And because I think once you know, you kind of write a few novels, you sort of get a sense of the pacing of what it should be and how you approach that pace, like what your kind of benchmarks are. But for this, it just felt like something completely different and kind of, I don't want to say scary, but like, I was like, I really don't know what I'm doing. This is terrible. What if I get to X number of words and I haven't like hit the verb yet? Like, what do I do then? You know? I mean, I guess it all kind of worked out, but I mean, sometimes I worry that like I rushed a lot of it. I mean, my characters have like sort of a full like arc of like their relationship. And I'm a little bit like, all right, didn't these girls just meet though? But okay, you know.
Have you met lesbians before, Maggie?
This is true. Very true. Excellent point. But I was worried about it because I'm like, well, you know, the Christmas season can only be so long, you know, so.
That's true. That is true. You had a time limit. That's true.
Right.
A space of dates to work with.
Right. As did you guys, really, you know? I mean, so it's like, how do you make all the things that typically happen in a story happen in such a short period of time without making it feel like it's just all like happening right away? But,
yeah, it's a very real concern and a very real fear. I mean, when I wrote 96 Hours, the title is because that's how long they are. That's how much they spend together. And they fall in love in 96 hours. But there's part of me that's like, oh my God, this is so fast.
Right.
You know? Now, there were extenuating circumstances, of course, and that always changes things. But I get exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
You got to be careful of that.
So.
It was fast for me. I'm a long book writer. My books are between 90 and 100
books are so long. I don't know how you do it.
Words. I have a problem. It's a problem. It's just, it's not, I'm doing my best to trim them for those people who want them to be shorter. But I'm a verbose person, it seems. So for me, that's a third of a novel for me. You know, a little less than a third of a novel. So, you know, the timeline was kind of helpful knowing that we only had the holidays, because then it had to force me to put things into kind of perspective. And then it's again, like what you talk about, like awkward first meetings, first kisses, like you don't have that friendship time to build a relationship because you have to kind of bang this one out quite literally and figuratively. So, you know, you got to just kind of work through it. And then for me, because I have a tendency to write a steamier novel, it's more about finding how to hit that rhythm early and keep it going the whole time. So, you know, that's conversation, that's flirting at the bar, that's not knowing who you're talking to, accidentally saying things you probably shouldn't say on a borderline unprofessional way, and then kind of being there and kind of backtracking and figuring out how that goes. So, it was really interesting. It was fun. It was this, 2020, I wrote 2.5 books and a full novella. So it was a busy year for me. I don't know where I squeezed it in, but I did. I was happy to do it. And I was really happy to relive the Christmas stuff for sure. So, but it was new. It was definitely, it's a much faster, it's a faster pace to get things clean.
Yeah. I will say the one thing I enjoyed though, is that I felt like I didn't have to make the conflict or the dark, the dark night of the soul be this big thing, because there's no real time to sort of come back from that.
Right.
So I was given a pass on angst to a certain extent. And I always have trouble with that, with writing good angst anyway. So I was like, this is a free thing. So
I'm laughing at the chat bar because somebody said, when we were talking about word length, somebody said, there's nothing wrong with 90,000 words. And I'm thinking, Fiona doesn't write 90,000 words. She writes like 120,000 words. I write
103 is my most. I'm trying to pull it back.
I shoot for 85, but because the cutoff for awards is 85 and up, and I always fall just under 85 every time. I can't get in that long category.
Just don't. It's the long category never ends, because it's just like, it's like 95, 85 plus to a million. So
that's true. That is true. You make your job harder in a lot of ways that way. I'm with you, George. I'm always right below 85.
Yeah. I think that my longest book is like 84 something. So somebody in the Q&A box asked if birth order is a trope. I don't think it is, Cindy. I mean, because it doesn't have to do with the love interest. It has to do with the siblings. So
I mean, I've definitely seen it come up in like royal romances and things like that, like heir to the throne, heir in the spare, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, if birth order means you inherit a kingdom,
sure,
then maybe in like historical it is, but I don't think it is in contemporary romance. I don't see how it would be. I'm not sure. And then there's another question that I'm not sure I understand, but maybe you guys do. What 2 characters would you like to read about that you haven't found?
I saw that question a few minutes ago, and I don't know the answer either, because I feel like there's such a wealth of novels out there now that there's almost anything you want to find. There's something out there. I mean, I'm sure there's someone who's saying, well, I'm looking for this, this, and this, and I haven't found it yet. But for me, I mean, I think that I don't think that I want things that are too unusual anyway. I want to find 2 main characters that sort of fall in love, that like, maybe sometimes I want, the characters to sort of like be either butch femme or femme or whatever it is that I'm like kind of in the mood for reading. But beyond that, as long as the story is well written, I kind of don't really want that. I don't necessarily need.
I agree with that. And I think 20 years ago, my answer would be different.
Right.
What are you looking for? What do you want to read that you don't see? There wasn't a lot out there 20 years ago, but now, like you said, there's so much that I really think I could find any kind of character if I just did a search, there's so much out there now with Kindle Unlimited and all of the publishers, and it's great. There's more than enough. Absolutely. And I am dating myself a little bit, but when I started reading lesfic, there was maybe a dozen to choose from each month.
Wow.
So, somebody's asking what our favorite scene in the novella was.
In our own novella?
In our own novella, I think. Yeah.
I will be reading tomorrow from the novella. I'm going to read my favorite scene is the scene where the 2 characters meet and they don't realize they're meeting. Yeah. And they have this really casual to not so casual flirty exchange that's like gets a little heated, and then it's kind of made known that it's an accidental heated conversation, and then there's a lot of awkwardness.
I remember reading that, and there was a point where I thought, wait, they don't know that they're supposed to be meeting, do they? Oh, this is good.
I think that's my favorite scene in the book. It was easy to write. It wrote itself. And then I felt like I really knew both the characters in that moment. I got to figure out who Mira was, and confident bar owner, and, kind of sexy and a little more alluring. And then Courtney, who's sweet and like, kind of like, there for a job. She's there to be successful. Her job is she's there to do a good job to get a promotion. And she's totally sidetracked and, derails things. And so I think that for me, that's my favorite part of my novella is that conversation, which I'll read tomorrow.
I think that I liked writing the first scene of my novella the best, because the meet cute is literally they bump into each other, and I thought that was kind of fun to write. And I don't know, I just liked it, like kind of to echo Fiona, like it kind of wrote itself. It was the easiest scene to write. And maybe it was just because I was setting the scene of like what this market looks like and you know, what that's like and what the makeup of it is and who the people are. And there's like a little bit, you get a sense of who the characters sort of really are. I just thought that was kind of I think the easiest one and sort of the one that I'll remember the most, I guess.
Right. I have two favorite scenes in mind. One is at the beginning when Sasha is talking to her pals about what a mess she's made of things. And one of them is like, we can make this work. That whole scene was fun to write because, you know, Sasha, it's in first person and Sasha is like, this is a stupid idea. I'm just going to hear her out, but this is never going to work. And then as it goes on, she's like, oh. And then of course, there's like, I'm sure you can see where this is going. And then I love the last scene before the epilogue where everything comes to light and the sister goes, I knew it. I was channeling Chandler from Friends. I don't know if you guys remember that
Sure, yeah.
particular scene when Ross and Rachel are breaking up and Rachel screams at Ross about it doesn't happen to every guy and it is a big deal. And Chandler's behind the door and he's like, I knew it. And that was in my head when I wrote it. And I think it was perfect. I think it worked so well. And I don't normally have emotional reaction when I'm writing my stories, but that made me laugh out loud when I wrote it. I was like, this is good. So that was fun.
Do you guys think you'll be revisiting any of these characters in future books? I know, Georgia, you already had a little, you know, appearance of one of them, but do you think in the future you'll be seeing them again?
I don't tend to do that. Well, no, that's a lie.
She's lying.
If I revisit them, it'll be a cameo somewhere because I've been doing that. I've been, you know, I did the whole Puppy Love series, and then every now and then someone in a book will go to Junebug Farms to adopt an animal. I actually just wrote that the other day in the current book that I'm writing. Or somebody will go to the wine bar and blend because I tend to write in the same world. But I don't know that I would revisit in the vein of writing them into another story. They might pop up somewhere. Sasha may pop up someplace. I mean, she's a realtor. She owns a giant real estate company. So that doesn't mean that she can't show up somewhere down the line in another book when someone's selling a house. So I never say never. What about you, Maggie?
I mean, I would never say never, but I can't see how these two would really come up again ever. They're not in any of the worlds that any of my other folks are in. It's sort of like they end up in Hudson, New York, which is, although I've sort of used that sort of like, I mean, I call that upstate New York. I think that Georgia calls it very differently.
No.
But
it's north of New York City is what's happening.
Right, right. But I've used like Hudson and Phoenicia and places like that as kind of like places where characters tend to live or settle if I'm not writing New York City itself. But other than that, I don't see how their paths would cross. But, you know, who knows? I mean,
could happen.
Crazy things happen. Sometimes we have all these grand plans of what our characters are going to do and who they're going to end up with. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. So I mean, I wouldn't say never. What about you, Fiona?
So I do, because the bar is a central location to the series, the real estate office is the series base. Yeah, Mira and Courtney have been at least mentioned in the second and the third book. So they don't get front and center because clearly I think that they had their romance story to start, but I could certainly see them coming up more for sure. And then we just got a question. Do you prefer novels or novellas as a reader or a writer? What are the pros and cons? So I kind of think the nice thing for me about the novella that we just talked about, it was like a palate cleanser. It kind of forced me to be more concise. I think it was a really good training activity to maybe trim down the long books, although I'm hearing that I shouldn't trim down the long books in the chat. You know, for me, it was really good exercise in learning restraint and getting to things more quickly. I think that's good. I personally prefer a novel because I really like the meet cute. I like the emotional development. I like a little bit of the challenge. I don't mind the angst. Because I think the payoff at the end is really good. I like the payoff. I like the return from, you know, darkness. So for me, I really enjoy a novel. I would certainly write another novella. It was, like I said, a really good exercise in being concise, but I think I'm more of a novel person myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maggie?
As a writer.
I think that I probably prefer novels as well, to both read and to write. I don't think that I was especially effective in hitting all the beats in a novella. It didn't feel like maybe it just didn't come as, not that I never think writing is easy, but like it didn't come as naturally to me to write at a novella pace. I mean, sometimes I think there are just different paces that we're sort of attuned to naturally. I mean, even we're kind of saying it here. Fiona tends to write really long books. I don't write books that are as long. So, so I think that for me, you know, it's just, I lost all my train of thought by that. But
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. But
my work here is done, Fiona says.
I know, seriously. But the same thing with a novella. Like I want a certain return on my investment, I guess. Mm-hmm. Although there have been novellas that I really like too. I guess if you know if that's what you're signing up for, that makes it okay.
I think I really liked writing the novella. I think that I prefer to write a novel. No, I prefer to read a novel. I don't really read very many novellas, I have to be honest. I should probably change that. But writing a novella is fun. I actually really liked it. I wouldn't say that I like it better than writing a novel, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was fun. I should not have said that out loud because I know Sandy is listening, and now that's going to be a thing. And why didn't you stop me, you guys?
I mean, because I don't disagree with you. I think I could absolutely write one, you know, every other year, maybe every year if I were insane, but at least every other year with the other books. As a reader, because I do have such limited time, the novella series was really nice because it came to me in page proofs and I was able to read both of yours, and it's the perfect length. It's like my Schitt's Creek, right? Like I can sit down and I can crank that out and really enjoy it and not feel like I have to put it down and leave a scene, because I could read that in an hour, or couple hours, and then it didn't feel like a 9-hour investment, which is wonderful. And I know that that's the escapism of reading, but it's a little harder to do right now with the kids around and the pandemic. So I really enjoyed it. And I think, like you said, I think I'm going to be more apt to go, especially picking up a book series like this where there's multiple authors, and I think it gives you the opportunity to see other authors that maybe you hadn't read before. It gives you a new taste, and it gives you the opportunity to see a different way of words and a different theme and style, and that for me was really great because you both did something so different than what I did. Yeah. And they worked as a group, but it wasn't something that I necessarily would have gone individually picked up had they not been put together. So I think in that regard, having the anthology collection is really nice.
Well, and I think the fact that the theme of it was Christmas helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was all about that. I mean, I don't think that I want to write, I don't want somebody to tell me to write a novella and I have to come up with my own. I'll write another Christmas novella in a heartbeat though. That was fun.
I know I kind of complained about this before, but I kind of like to echo what you're saying, Georgia, like because it was Christmas, it gave you a defined time frame. It gave you a defined theme. It wasn't like, how do I craft this story about these two people and make it feel complete, because we were kind of given this like, okay, it's got to be about Christmas, and that sort of kind of naturally blends everything together. So that was kind of nice too.
Completely agree with that.
There's a question here that says, like, how do you develop your characters, and what do you think about when coming up with ideas for characters and what inspires them? The interesting thing about what like Maggie just said is because it was a Christmas theme, I knew I wanted one of my characters to be a Grinch. Right out, like I wanted one of my characters not to like Christmas. Easy, that was like an easy decision. And then kind of matching her personality to like not liking holidays and like not liking Christmas, and music annoys her. Like that was the most fun thing to do. So I think I normally develop my characters on personality, but in this case, because it was holiday themed, I knew one of them had to be a Grinch. It just had to happen.
Yeah,
that's cool when it falls in your lap though. Right? When
I love when things fall in my lap. It's never a problem.
I think for me, when I develop a character, a lot of the times, I don't know why this is, but a lot of time it centers around their job. Like before I come up with two people, I say, okay, she's a florist and she's a whatever. And I don't know why that's the order that I take, but it is. That's usually the first thing I have. Usually I can see them, because every couple that I've had is either two celebrities or it's somebody that I've seen somewhere. So I know who they are. But after I have that visual, then it's their job. That's the next thing that comes in, is their occupation. And then I go from there. I develop them from there. And I don't know why that is. I don't know where that came from. That just happens to be the way I operate. And then I grow them from that point. And I figure out if their jobs are going to be part of their angst. And sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. The current characters that I'm writing, I have a teacher and a woman who works at a florist. And the only reason their job or the teacher's job is prevalent is because she teaches the son of the woman who works at the florist. Other than that, their jobs don't matter. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but that's where I start with a character. I start with her occupation and I grow her from there.
We get a question in the Q&A here. It's what made you want and then convince you to write a novella pack instead of a full novel? And
Our boss.
Our boss. I don't know how it was floated to you too, but I got an email that was like, hey, what do you think about writing a Christmas novella? And I did the same panic that Maggie did. I've never written a novella and I'm on the hook for 3 right now, novels. So that didn't seem like a good idea. But then, when they started talking about it a little more and they sort of, talked to me about giving the idea of like, because it was theme based, I felt like it was something totally harnessable and it felt like we could do it. And then when I found out who I'd be working with, it was easy because it's just a matter at that point of like, you're going to be surrounded by quality writing, you're going to make a good decision. And regardless of where you go, you're not by yourself. So that's kind of the nice thing, right, about a novella is you're on a ship. And if we all go down, we're all going down together, but at least,
And like
at least we can work.
For me, like just to sort of echo some of what you're saying there too. I knew who was sort of already on the ship, and I was like, well, like this ship is gonna sail. So I was sort of happy to be included. To be perfectly honest with you, you guys both are very successful, have an excellent following, and I could only kind of stand to sort of gain readers. So it was never really something that I even considered not doing. And I was sort of on the hook for the deadline for the novel that I was writing was very close to the due date for the novella. And I was kind of like, ugh, can I do both? I'm not like somebody who is really great at multitasking when it comes to writing. I tend to be like, oh, can't do it. Okay. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity. So I just,
Yeah, I felt the same way. The theme was a big draw for me. And the fact that it was 2 authors whose writing I'm familiar with and a fan of. And I had the same worry, Maggie, that, I was like, can I do both of these things? Can I get these both done? And I did, I managed it, but there were some moments of panic about whether or not I could do both of these at the same time. And it was actually, I think I said this earlier, it was actually Sandy's idea for me to use a secondary character from the novel that was also coming out. So they're tied together, which is kind of a nice gimmick. I never really thought about saying no. I just weighed the pros and cons and then tried to figure out how I could make this work. And once I figured it out, I was all in.
Same.
Yeah. And I think there's a question in the...
Yeah, the question is, what's your favorite thing about Christmas?
Oh, that one I didn't see. Okay.
Oh, that's the question that I saw.
Yeah, we're good. That's the one we're going with.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Oh gosh, my favorite thing about Christmas. I mean, I think just seeing family and stuff, which was sort of crazy this year. I mean, I have a huge extended family. I only have one sister and we're super, super close. I did get to see her on Christmas, which was kind of nice. But I have like something like 21 first cousins, many of whom live in the New York area. They all have kids. And I get together with my cousins every Christmas and go to dinner in the city. And then we get together another day around Christmas with our families. So I love that. I love to sort of like kind of come together. We didn't get to do that this year, but it's still, we did like a small little like kind of Zoom thing. It's not the same, but it's still nice, you know? But I love everything about it. I love the cookies. I love the food. I love seeing my kids open presents. Even though kind of like they know the deal at this point, it's still exciting. So this was the first year that magic was kind of gone, but it was a different kind of magic and it was nice.
Yep. I agree.
What about you guys?
So for me, I love the spirit of the season. I think, Christmas, big or small, doesn't really matter. I have little kids, so everything's really exciting to them. This is the first year my 3.5-year-old really got excited about the idea of like Santa coming. Like in the past, she was too young. Then the young one's really a little too young still. She's 21 months. But she gets excited because her sister's excited. So that's cool. But for me, I just love how everything feels possible and everything kind of feels a little magical. Like it's coming to the end of the year. It's a culmination of usually 10 or 11 months of working, and people are just looking for an escape. And you had your little brief, hiatus of Thanksgiving to kind of warm you into the season. But then here you are going into like the holidays. And I live in Boston. So for me, I love the snow and I don't mind the cold this time of year. And I like Christmas lights. I love driving through neighborhoods. So I just love that everyone's a little kinder and everything seems a little more magical. That's the part of Christmas that I like, or the holidays.
That's actually mine too, is that people are nicer. Everybody's a little warmer and a little nicer and a little slower to get pissed off.
Sure.
And I like that, in addition to family and cookies, and I love giving presents, and I love shopping. I love shopping for Christmas presents. I love when I find the perfect thing for somebody. But it is that whole feeling, magical is the right word. It's just that whole feeling of magic and love and warmth. And I say that I wish it could be Christmas all the time, but if it was, then we wouldn't have that.
Right.
So,
right.
I think we're out of time, are we? Is it 7:50?
It is 7:50.
I think it is.
Holy cow, that went fast. Thanks.
The cat's at the door. He's ready to come in.
Mine has crashed. She's in my lap now, in a ball.
I really enjoyed writing this novella with you both. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was really fun. And when you're doing it by yourself next Christmas, Georgia, just know that you'll miss us.
Yeah, seriously. It was
Thank
also
all of you guys for attending. We really appreciate it, and your questions. Someone has said that it's 2:50 where they are, 2:50 in the morning. Holy cow.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah.
Wow. And then I think there's some readings coming up in a few minutes.
Yeah, so stay tuned for sure. Stick around.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Bye, guys.
See you around, guys.